Hello and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. I think it's almost daylight now, so I could call it Dawn Busters. I have two bourbon whiskeys, and they were both introduced in 2011. This is Jesse James America's Outlaw Bourbon whiskey, bottled in California. Now, there's a write-up on the side about how it's charcoal mellowed. For some reason, we're getting a two-year age version, but if you look at the website, which I'm going to show you in a moment, it says age 3 years. So they sending us in Louisiana a 2-year age version. Can't explain why. I got a great deal on this liter bottle. Got to update. I put American Outlaw. It's America's Outlaw Bourbon. $7.99 a liter. It's a crazy price, but I found it, so I bought it. And I noticed the other stores that have it, not too many, but the other stores had it for about $17.99 for the regular size bottle. Still an inexpensive bourbon, but $7.99 for regular, and I found a liter for $17.99 for the regular, and I found a liter for $7.99. Crazy, but I don't know where these stores around here get these deals. Here's Colonel E.H. Taylor, introduced by Buffalo Trace as a line extension to Old Taylor, which was introduced in 1887. Here's Colonel E.H. Taylor. Now, when they first had Old Taylor, it was 100 proof, bottled in bond. Then they introduced in the 1950s, there's the Old Fire Copper Distillery, now known as Buffalo Trace Distillery. Then in the 1950s, they introduced an 86 proof version of Old Taylor. And my thinking is, and this is subjection, this is theory, not fact. I think when they introduced the Colonel E.H. Taylor line, they just brought Old Taylor down to an 80 proof basic bourbon and kept it on the market, but they don't promote it. They don't even acknowledge it on the Buffalo Trace website, but it's around. Jesse James, always drank upstream from the herd. There's Jesse James Dupree, who was in a rock band. Now he does marketing, bourbon and apparel, other whiskeys, spiced whiskey, and apparel, things like that. If you want to order caps, belt buckles, things such as that. And you can see they got a honey flavored whiskey, a spiced, a cinnamon, kind of everybody does a fireball knockoff these days. There's a Tennessee whiskey, single barrel. There's barrel strength Tennessee whiskey. And then the new release, and there's the bourbon here. Charcoal mellowed, and it says age minimum of 36 months, but my bottle clearly says age 2 years, so that's a strange thing. All right. This is whiskey. Oh, whoops. A little mistake there. Here's the E.H. Taylor Jr. small batch website. Beautiful glass. I have a similar glass, not as pretty as that one. And they talk about it. They say it's for somebody who's getting toward the advanced stage. Like you have to have practice to drink bourbon. When in reality, all you got to do is just buy it and try any one that you want. From the most expensive to the cheapest, you can buy whatever you want. You don't need to be like initiated to some secret society of drinking bourbon. They're showing some of their products on their website. Buffalo, Eagle Rare, Weller, Taylor, Stag, Lee, Elmer T. Lee, Van Winkle, Blanton's, Charter, Old Charter, Benchmark. But they also make Ancient Age and a number of things. Now, but some they don't bother to promote. Now, like I said, Jesse James, they don't have a distillery. I don't even think they have a bottling plant. I think they just have an office somewhere. And they have a company in Mira Loma, California that puts it together for them, doesn't distill it, but just puts it together and bottles it. Because I noticed a lot of products coming out of Mira Loma, California, so there must be at least a bottling plant there. So it's sourced. Real cork here. Now, who do they get their bourbon and Tennessee whiskey from? Good question. But when you think about it, then you realize it's not some mom and pop micro distillery that's not going to be able to put out that kind of volume. Who is your big Tennessee whiskey producers? George Dickel, Jack Daniels. We know who the big bourbon companies are. So do these bourbon companies do overflow? Do they do contract distilling? Answer, yes, they do. Now, it could come from Midwest grain products, but more than likely, this thing here is probably a blend of different bourbons from various states. It might change year to year because as an independent bottler, they're going to get contracts with whoever. And now that back in the background, that's a scratching board, which the kitten will not scratch on it. I bought it at Walmart. She will scratch on it. I did what they said. I put the catnip on it. All she wanted to do is eat the catnip off of it. She didn't want to scratch it. Then I put a little toy up there. She likes to knock stuff down, so I put it up there so she could knock it down, but looks like she wasn't interested this time. But I'll leave it up there in case she decides to jump and knock it down. Okay, copper. Yeah, it's copper. And it's copper, maybe a little darker. E.H. Taylor, Colonel E.H. Taylor Jr. has no age statement, but we know it's at least 4 years old because it's got no age statement on it. It's 100 proof, 100 proof. The Jesse James is 80 proof. You would think, 40% alcohol versus 50%, I should be able to detect that. And the regular price of this is $17.99. And the regular price of Taylor is definitely not $17.99. So you're looking at a much higher price point, maybe around $40, depending where you shop, if you can find it at all. Because they intentionally make it rare so that you have to search for it. Let's see if anybody's got it for sale. Total Wine, they'll probably say out of stock. The Rare Whiskey Shop, $199.99. Oh, if you fall for that, I'm not really seeing anybody selling it. Ohio Liquor Control Board. I think Ohio has one of those state control boards where you got to buy liquor from the government, like New Hampshire, Virginia, and other states. Let's see. Ohio, $50.99. Is that a good price? I don't know. Available. Naturally. Maybe you can get on a waiting list. Total Wine and More, $60.99. So $1 more. Out of stock, of course. It's one of these rundown bourbons, and I've seen it come in stock over here in my town, but it doesn't last but a day or so. And a local store had it where I guess they were going to taste it, and the cap broke, the cork broke, so they can't get the cork out. And I was telling that store manager, I said, I know how to fix that. They just got a full bottle of bourbon sitting in there. But they said, oh, okay, but it'll be sitting there 10 years from now, probably. Easy fix. Take a little time, but I've dealt with broken corks before. It's not that difficult to work around that. It's irritating, but it's not difficult. Get out of here. Don't claw my pants. Go try to knock your thing, your toys. She doesn't really like playing with her toys. She'll chase a ball around the house. But cat toast, she doesn't care about those. And I'm gonna just throw them all away eventually. And then she rather just do other things like things she shouldn't do, like attack shower curtains and things like that, or cotton. My cotton plants that I kept as a souvenir from North Louisiana. Got that all ripped apart. Wants to chew on the cotton. Come on, go away. She's not gonna go away. Any room I'm in, she got to be in the room. When I went walking this morning, she's looking out the window. Why are you leaving me? But yeah, she doesn't want to go outside. Smell like bourbon. You know, roasted corn kernels, vanilla, charcoal. Sometimes a little cherry I get on bourbon. And that, don't laugh at that, because look at some of the descriptions that the distillers put on there. Licorice. I never smelled licorice in any bourbon, but they put it on each seller. Say licorice is a aroma or tasting note. Certainly know what liquor. But oh, get off my blue jeans. She's got to know that is not right. Okay. So aroma, appearance, they about the same. Okay. Aroma, there's not much difference. Now the taste, yeah, that's where it's gonna come down to it. Get that cherry. There's no cherry in bourbon. Although they have cherry flavored ones. Yeah. Yeah, same things I just described. That charcoal and so forth. Same thing here, but less of it. She's playing with something under the couch, and I don't think it's something she needs to play with, but I'll check. Oh yeah, I know what's coming next, right? Yep. Just calm down. You don't need to knock everything over. So this one is a good flavor, but it's less of the flavor. It's like milder, tamped down, and that's telling me that it's the Jesse James. Stronger, more robust. See, that's the thing about the Taylor. Stronger, more robust, and frankly more character. Now, still in all, is the Jesse James worth purchasing? Yes, I would recommend it. Still give it an A at the worst. At the worst, A minus. Yeah, I couldn't go lower than A minus. I'll give it a 90. That's fair. 90 out of 100. A minus. Getting into excellent. You say, well, it's a source whiskey. It's independent bottle. I know they do that in Scotland, and you can get some really good independent bottled Scotch, single malt or blended. It's up to you. You can get some that are shabby. You just got to try them. Some are boo boo, and some are nice. I mean, look at Johnny Walker. They don't even have a Johnny Walker distillery. There never has been a Johnny Walker distillery. Johnny Walker does not make, let me say it like this, they do not distill whiskey. They blend whiskey. They source it from different facilities, get their grain whiskey from a grain whiskey producer. They got some big ones in Scotland. They just churn it out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whoever wants to buy it can buy it. Then they blend it in single malts, Coliola, and Lagavulin and other ones, however they want to blend it. So that's how Johnny Walker operates. Chivas Brothers, same thing. Well, they actually do own a grain distillery. I think it's called Bourbon. I think that's what it's called. They were saying that on their website. But they get their single malts from like Abalur Distillery and other ones. Well, I mean, they own it. Think about Grant's. If you look on Grant's carefully, all their bottles say in small print Glenfiddich, because they use Glenfiddich in their blend. Some people like Grant's, other people don't. I can get it in my town. I don't see people buying it. Actually, I don't see people buying Scotch, but I'm not standing in a store watching people buy stuff all day either. See people buying a lot of Crown Royal. That's like the hit here. And I just read an article, I watched the NBC News report about the liquor business is doing terrible right now. They said on there, these distilleries are sitting on what they call a lake of unsold bourbon or regular, could be other whiskeys. Doesn't have to just be bourbon. Well, if people not buying it, then it's sitting on the shelf or in a warehouse. That's not helping them out. What did they have? 3 distilleries, Balcones in Texas, I think it was, George Dickel. They don't produce bourbon anymore. Not for their distilleries are idle. It's going to reopen, but you don't know what the parent company is going to do. Jim Beam shut down one of their big distilleries. They said for the whole 2026, it's not going to operate. But they intend to reopen it. You heard what I said, intend to reopen it. Doesn't make a lot of sense to produce more bourbon if you can't sell the ones you have, right? Beer is down. Anheuser-Busch announced they're going to sell one brewery. Somebody wants to buy it. Don't remember who. But it was somebody that doesn't brew beer. They wanted to buy it because they wanted the facility to, it was a company that buys old factories and they redo it for some other reason and flip it or whatever. They go around buying properties like that. And the other 2, they're just shutting down. Newark, New Jersey, another one, I can't remember where. I know Los Angeles, they're shutting down, but I don't know if that's the one they're selling. What does that tell you? Tells you everything. They don't need it. They're not selling enough beer. They don't need all these breweries. So it's it's a mess. Look at Pabst. They got rid of all their breweries. Well, they own one in San Antonio, but it's not being used at the moment. It was cheaper for them to pay other people to brew their beer. The overhead was too much. And then they had union problems. The union's like, we'll go on strike. We'll show you. They're like, oh, we got a solution for that. We'll just shut down and then you won't have a job. And they did shut down and they didn't have a job. So, how's that helping you? Now, the union, I used to know these union guys and they would say, we sticking it to the boss. We sticking it to them. It's like, how are you sticking it to them? Why are they considered your enemy? They hired you. They didn't need to hire you. They gave you a job. They're your enemy. But these union bosses are putting this in your head, you see, in your mind, this antagonism. So you showed them, but now you don't have a job. You used to have a good job at Pabst Brewery, but now you work at Pizza Hut. Okay. I guess that's somehow helping the American worker, but maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think I am. All right. This one man I'm thinking about, he died. Unfortunately, I'm sorry he got sick and died, but he was so fanatical about all that. It was like Karl Marx Jr., and he caused a lot of problems at his refinery. But in his mind, he's doing the right thing. But in reality, he was doing a bad thing, in my opinion, you see. Okay, I say this is the tale. And it is. So did the proof give it away? Definitely. Up to 100 proof, I like. I like that. You go above 100, I start to not like it. For instance, Wild Turkey 101. Okay, I can tolerate it, 101, but it gets to like, I'm gonna buy Wild Turkey every day over Wild Turkey 101. Just be honest. The 81 proof, the regular standard Wild Turkey, they used to call it Wild Turkey 81, but I guess they figured that name sounded kind of cheeky, but they went to just Wild Turkey. I would choose that every time. Now, other people would laugh at me and say, "You're stupid." How dare you prefer a lower proof whiskey over a higher proof? Well, because I like it. That's how I dare do it. And I love Taylor. This Taylor is a 90 at the look. If I'm being stingy with my score, if I'm being stingy with the score, I'm going to go 95. Hear what I'm saying? If I'm cutting it down, dogging it, killing the score, I'm giving it a 95. There's no way it's lower than that. Impossible. And that's an indictment against Johnny Walker Blue Label because I paid $226 and 226 plus tax. So it came out to $242 after tax. And that whiskey was a 95. You say, well, that's a high score. Yeah. Right. This one is being listed at $60. And you might get it cheaper, but $60 and it's even. You could look at my face in that video where I did Johnny and I had my nice blazer on and a tie. You can see my face. I'm thinking like, what? I paid this kind of money and I got a 95. That thing should have been a 100. It should have come in at 100 easily. And it only got a 95. You say only. Look at beer. I mean, Bourbon County brand stout, Goose Island. I bought that last year for the 2025 edition. That thing killed it at 100. My opinion. Other people said no, wasn't that good. It's going down. I don't believe it. Bam, 100 out of 100. Perfect product. Now, other people like George, he tried it. Oh, he didn't like it. He's not required to like it. He doesn't like strong beer. Obviously, he prefers light beer. Now, you give him a light beer, he likes it. People can, of course, drink whatever they like. And he loved the Hurricane High Gravity. Now, you laugh and roll your eyes, say Hurricane High Gravity. That's a cheap American adjunct lager, 8.1%. It is a cheap American adjunct lager. Been on the market 21 years. And somebody made a comment, he has no taste for beer. Well, he has a taste for beer. It's just not in line with your taste. I'm not defending him. I'm just explaining it. Now, I have a taste for beer that might be more in line with like a craft beer enthusiast. Okay, fine. I started drinking craft beer in 1996, right alongside the regular stuff. I never differentiated. I bought Rick and Jack's Scotch Ale. And then I'm buying Schaefer and Schaefer Light. Obviously, they're not the same. They're not at the same level. But I had enjoyment for both because they had their own characteristics that were appropriate to the price level. And I would try everything, in 1996, 97, I would try everything, within reason. And I would try to get my family to try other beers. They weren't interested, had no interest. I mean, it's amazing. They had no interest. I was like nagging them. I was like, try this beer. No, I'm drinking a good beer right now, Coors Light. I'm like, come on, man. There's more to life than Coors Light, but they didn't care. Now, my father, that was in his drinking days. He stopped drinking. He says 2002. I think it was January 03. But it doesn't matter. But he would try them. He would try them. He said, let me try that. He didn't like it. He never liked them, but he would try it. Oh, okay. I can see why this stuff. Oh, I said, what do you think about this Colt 45 beer? They used to make a Colt 45 beer, cold filtered, not pasteurized, kind of like a milk MGD, Miller Genuine Draft knockoff. You know, he would say stuff like, well, it tastes like horse urine drained through a dirty sock. But, you know, somebody probably likes it. I'd say, come on, you know. But he would try it. He would try it. He would try it. He liked Coors Light too. The great Coors Light. And I would taste it. I'd be like, it is great in a certain context because it's very well made light beer. I can't dispute that. But it's like, wouldn't you want to try something different? It's like if you watch television a lot. Now, I watch beer reviews in sports, but you say, oh, the pinnacle is Happy Days. Happy Days is definitely not the pinnacle. But you say that's my level, but your level is low. I mean, you don't want to watch something a little more intellectual like Barney Miller or Mary Tyler Moore or something like that. No, I don't like to think. You're not required to. I get that. You're not required. You could just veg out, watch a sitcom, situation comedy. But I mean, wouldn't you want to watch something more elevated, like the pinnacle, like Fawlty Towers? See, my family would watch Fawlty Towers and say that was the stupidest, non-comical thing they ever watched. And they would say, British people do not understand comedy. I would say, completely different. Like, you don't get it. Like, it's totally way above American sitcoms. And most American good sitcoms were knockoffs of British, like Sanford and Son. It says it if you watch the credits, it'll say adapted from the BBC comedy Steptoe and Son. All in the Family, like considered like the classic great American sitcom. It says it on the credits. Adapted from the British comedy. What was the BBC comedy? It was called, I can't remember, but it was something famous. But I mean, you watch Are You Being Served? That would totally annihilate most any American situation comedy. But people don't. I don't know. It frustrates me. I think the real reason is that the American comedies are glib, and you can take that any way you want. And if you're taking it the way I'm thinking, you're taking it the right way. It's all glib humor. And I'm not favorable really toward glib humor. And the British comedies are more demure humor. A little bit more developed. I'm not saying England is superior to America. I'm just know what I watched. Like Seinfeld is very glib. And Seinfeld is a comedy that is a show that did not age well. If you watch that, it did not age well. In its time, maybe it was funny, but it's very immoral. You know, I could say a lot of things. I'll get in trouble. I'll be kicked off the internet. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. Glib, like, I don't want to get into Woody Allen movie, but I think you understand what I'm saying. But the British, they were more. Even a Red Dwarf, and they say terrible things. That show is very bad. But they had a sense of, like, you know, some kind of off the wall, like a cat, you know, like this is a kitten up here. She got tired now. You got tired, huh? But then he would become Dwayne Dibley. To my Americans, it's like, that's not funny. It's like, it's never mind. Good morning, Louisiana Liquor Reviews. Hope you have a wonderful day, says Tommy. Same to you, Tommy. All right, so that's the end. The Old Tailor was easily detectable. It wasn't really much of a challenge. I called it a Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. But it was more like a Dawn Busters tasting, a blind tasting, but it wasn't much challenge to it. Still in all, I recommend both. It's your purview, whatever you want to pay. You say, I'd rather pay $17.99 than $59.99. I get that. You know, you're gonna lose flavor, but you'll save a lot of money. It's all trade-offs. However you want to trade it. It's all about trade-offs, which is aloof to a lot of people. Because a lot of people have horrible debt and no savings because they want everything and nothing. They want that at the same time. Like, what do you want in life? Everything and nothing. It's impossible. Okay, I was talking to somebody yesterday. He says, yeah, I'm going on that cruise. I'm making payments. And I'm looking at him. I said, payments? He said, yeah, I only have $6 left. I said, did I hear you? I said, $6? Yeah, $6 left. Okay, so he's taking a cruise. Let's say it's $3,000. But he's making payments, so he's going to pay like $4,500. But I could never talk to him about that. He would never grasp it. I'd be like, you could wait and save the money and go on the cruise later. But no, it doesn't register. Same thing with automobiles. I tell people, you save a lot of money if you don't pay notes. No, but I got a deal on my notes. I say, of course you got a deal, but the car company, Ford Credit really got the deal. You got the bad deal. They got it. You got a deal, but it was a bad deal, but you got a deal, all right. Anyway, enough preaching. This whiskey homily has ended. So cheers to Taylor. This is my bourbon champion. Honestly, is this the best bourbon I have in this house? Clearly, without a doubt. There's no disputing it. I have another taste challenge coming, but once again, if you want to call it a challenge, well, okay. It is Jepson's. It's sourced. Okay, same thing, independent bottler, but it's 100 proof, so it might have some theoretical chance of victory. It has no real chance of victory, no practical, reasonable chance of winning. But some people go into a casino and hit the jackpot, but the reality is that it's not going to happen. I was talking to somebody yesterday about gambling. He was telling me, "Oh, I won $900." I said, "You need to keep a record." So keep a record of your layout and your receipt. Your what you pay and what you get. Don't do it in a month. That doesn't show me anything. I said, do this over like a 5-year period. What you pay at the casino and what you receive. And I say, you're going to notice it's a horrible ratio, winning to losing. And then he went on to say about, oh yeah, but the government says casinos have to pay so much percent. I don't know. I never heard of such a regulation. And you got to go at the end of the month. You can't go at the beginning of the month. You're going to pay. I like, do what you want. It's your money. I don't care. It makes no difference to me, especially since your interests don't conflict with my interests because I don't gamble. But anyway, all right. See y'all for Friday. But I might do it today because Friday is problematic. But I might do Friday today. I got one more bourbon, the Jepson's versus Taylor. But you could skip watching it because Taylor's going to win. I mean, you could save yourself time because it's going to win. But if you have a perverted sense of entertainment, but you know what I'm saying. No, I mean, you could watch it. Now you're chewing on cloth. Okay. Talking about the kitten. All right. Bye, everybody.